Hey there guys, I'm Lee Williamson, and today I'm going to go through the process of creating assets for PNG Sequence for a sort of Omens 3D object in Cinema 4D. We'll be using Premiere for cropping video, Adobe Animate for tracing and drawing the animation, and Cinema 4D, I will show you how to take that PNG sequence in there, how to animate it, turn it on and off so that if you had more than one animation that was required to go over the same area inside of a 3D object, that you can do that. So without all that waffling, let's dig in. Really cool, the original Thundercats title animation. And what I want to nab from this animation is this badge opening up on the Thundercats sort of Omens. So what I'll first do is I'm going to take it into Premiere, File, Project. Let's just call this Thundercats Intro, Crop. Okay. And we're going to choose the Thundercats video that I downloaded from YouTube. Well, all I'm going to do is drag it onto my timeline. And now it's created a clip. So we can call this badge. Let's call it Thundercats badge crop. So we've got the animation running here. Press spacebar on the keyboard and it'll play through. So I'm just going to press plus on my keyboard to zoom in. And I want to get to the part where the, not that part where you first see the sword, it's the next part where you see the Thundercats logo appearing. Here we go. So let's be about there. And we can use this tool, the razor tool, and press C on the keyboard. Click over there. And where does it end? Okay. Just press plus on the keyboard and zoom in a little bit further. There we go. And let's just crop over there. And then press B on the keyboard to turn back to your cursor icon. Click on this layer, delete it. Click on this layer, delete it. Zoom back out again. And you can just pick that up and drag it to the very beginning of the timeline. Okay. All I have to do now is export it out and save it out again as a MP4 file. So I can go to File, Export, Media, and HS264 format. Match bitrate, perfectly fine. And then click on the output name. Let's just put it back inside the footage. See, there it is, MP4. Press save and export. And now we should have a cropped version ready to put inside Flash. So let's see that again. Boom, perfect. So I'm going to open up Flash Animate, and I'm going to click on Full HD and create. Since my video is going to be 25 frames a second, I'm going to go to modify and just change my frame rate to 25. Then I'm going to grab my cropped video, choose embed H264 video on timeline, press next. Since I'm just tracing some of this video, I won't need audio, so I can uncheck audio and then just press finish. And there the video is on the timeline. Now the first thing you need to do is go into your properties manager. You can see it underneath here, and we're just going to change that to 1920 by 180 and then align it. It doesn't really matter too much how you place a video. I mean, at the end of the day, once we've traced it, we can pre-comp it, we'll save it as a movie clip as known inside Flash, and scale it to any size we want. So I can just double click this, we'll call that video, and then we can click new layer and we can call this trace and press OK. And now the first thing you need to do is I want to have keyframes on every layer because I don't want to reintroduce new keyframes all the time. So I'm going to select the whole entire layer and I'm going to press F6 in the keyboard, and now you should have a whole bunch of keyframes on the layer ready for me to trace. And let's just save this out. Badge trace will be fine. And press save. So the first thing we're going to do is just speak about how to import some vectors into Flash, because some I'll draw and some I'll just import straight in just to save a little bit of time. So I found this Thundercats logo. It's inside of Illustrator. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to try and import the AI file. I'm just going to say Control C and go to Flash, click on any of the keyframes where that badge logo is and press Control V, and it's going to come up with a paste using AI file importer preferences, and I'm going to go OK. Now currently it's used the same grouping system as it was set up in Illustrator, so I can go Control B to break it up into the groups that it has, and I can just delete that, delete the badge. Now the Thundercats eye is separate from this. Now I just want to make it one object, so I can click on both. I can say Control B to break it apart and then click on the eye, and it will physically punch it out of the logo. And then I can just go to my color tool, make this black, and press Control G to group it again. Press Q on the keyboard to set up your scaling, and then just hold down your Shift to get the Thundercats logo in the right size space. Now if you really want to know that it's scaling the right size, if you look on the layer here, you can click on it and it gives you almost like an onion skin trace of the logo, so you can just move it around in a place that suits you. And you just kind of click on and off whenever you want. Now I'm just going to take that and delete it. So I've copied and pasted it, and delete the layer and paste it on the layer. It should be, so that should be Control Shift V, which means paste it into the exact position where it was. And maybe in this scene that's a little bit bigger, Control Shift V, press that eye on again, this time just squeeze it out a little bit bigger. And in this circumstance we might actually just want to trace the logo entirely because it's warped quite substantially different. So I'm going to show you the next cool trick inside of Flash. It's important to know these shortcuts C and V. V will return you back to your cursor. V and N. So V will send you to your cursor. N will pop up your line tool. So currently my drawing, my outline is green, so I can drag a line and then press V on my keyboard and it goes back to the cursor where I can skew it. I can draw another line. I don't know if you guys can see this properly, so I think it's because I still have that outline setting on my layer palette. There we go, that should be a lot better. And you can notice also that it's doing corner snapping. So if you go into your, let's see, where is it? Under your view, and you've got snapping, and make sure that you've got snap to objects, not to pixels, otherwise it'll snap to the video itself. And then you can draw out the whole entire face. And if I'm drawing a circle, usually a circle is what is it, 8 points? I should tell you what I'll do. Imagine I drew from here to here to here to here, and then press V on my keyboard, and all I can do is then click on the corners and straighten them out. And you know, if for example that doesn't look straight there, I can press go back to my line tool, click on there, delete those, and then just, so all you're doing is you're introducing an extra 2 points into your drawing. It's quite different to Illustrator, but it works very well. So yeah, and tell you what, let's just really do a fast hatch of this. I'm not going to make it neat, but it's very easy to just go and finesse it as you're going along. The thing I love about Flash is you can do a really messy drawing and come back and correct it quite substantially. You know, if I've got a pointy ear there, I could just do what I did before, delete the 2 bits and pull out the end bit, and boom, you've got a rounded ear. Okay, so there we go. And then I can just go to my paint bucket. It's currently set fill is on black. I want it, yep, I'll actually use black, it's fine. And then I'll just fill it, and then press back on my V, double click on my outlines, and just delete my outlines. Now, if I'm drawing more than one object and I don't, let's just for example say I drew a circle. That circle is merged now with this. It's not really what I want, and it's totally messed up the animation. So rather than doing that, I can click on this, press Ctrl G, and it'll group it. And I can draw another circle. I can double click on it and press Ctrl G, and I can move this around without affecting that Thundercats logo. Now I'm just going to go through this whole animation and draw all the different parts. Now I may want to draw a red circle on a totally different layer, so I can just put a new layer, and let's just call this a red circle. Okay, drag this below, and I could just draw just like that. Let's just delete that out there, and yeah, Q on the keyboard, pull that red circle. You can use a color dropper to get the right red color, and just fill it and delete the outline. So you could also draw assets on totally different layers, that's fine too. Now that red circle will stay on every single layer because I didn't press, what was it, F6 on the keyboard to separate them out into separate keyframes. And then I'm just going to pretty much layer this up. So if I turn that eye off, I'll just go around and I'm going to draw all these little cool sparky things in the animation. Right, so I'm going to skip ahead and show you the final animation and how to export it ready to put it into Cinema 4D. Right, so now I've drawn out the rest of the animation. So what you see here is 3 different layers. Let me just turn them off. So you've got the eye drawn on. Then in the first 2 frames before the eye opens, it's blue there. So there's 2 blue circles, and then just a little bit of artistic license where I've drawn a stylized yellow, 2 yellow circles behind it. And so I've also drawn some extra assets here behind, but they're much larger. Now this is kind of the size that the badge will be once animated. So what I'll first need to do is pre-compose these 3 smaller layers, or it's kind of what you call an After Effects, but inside of Flash you would select all your layers, and your 3 layers. You press F8 on the keyboard, and you're gonna, let's just call this any or drawn assets, and we're going to keep it as graphic, and we're going to go OK. Actually, no, ignore that. That was totally wrong. you're going to select all the assets. You're going to go timeline, cut frames. Then you're going to delete your layers. And we can just say a new layer, and I'm going to delete, move some of the frames. So there's only one keyframe there. And now I'm just going to draw any old shape on the desktop. Select it, press F8 on the keyboard, and let's just call this drawn assets, as I was trying to do. So okay, now remember I've copied and pasted those keyframes. So if I double click inside here, that box is just holding a keyframe inside there. I can delete that, click on that keyframe and go to timeline, paste frames. And there's all the animations inside there. And I click back out into the scene. And I'm just going to press F5 on the keyboard to make sure that it goes all the way to the end. And let's just call this drawn assets. Okay, and if I turn on the other layers underneath it, you notice originally this trace was a lot smaller. So I can just align this to the center, and then I can go into my scale and I can just scale it up. Now you can press, let me see what it was, is it what is it? That's a long time since I worked inside Flash. I'm still trying to remember where you can move the corner, but you know, it doesn't really matter. So we're just going to scale this further. You can also press Q on the keyboard just to scale it out. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it till it's the same size as that circle. So I'm going to put over the top, press Q again, and keep scaling it up. Right, so I think that's about right. And then just turn that outline layer off again. And now I've drawn these other extra assets. So I've drawn a blue background, and there's the drawn assets. Right, so that's all ready to export. So just one other thing I wanted to show you with this drawn assets, when you click on this has been saved as a graphical element. So if you press shift, if you just click on it and you see in your properties, there should be an option here, whatever it is on yours, either have it on loop or play once. That way this clip will play out on your timeline, which is what you want. Now I want to pre-compose this again pretty much. So I'm going to select all the layers and do exactly as I did before. I'm going to go cut and delete that and move the frames. Just create a little square over the top there. Select the whole thing, press F8, and let's just call this Annie in really big cap letters. Double click inside of it, delete it, and paste frames. That didn't quite work the way I expected it to. Let's go back a few steps. So I should have been able to select them all. Let's try again. Cut frames and delete that. Leave one frame there, move that. Just create a square. Select it, press F8, and we can call this Annie. This time, Annie, are you okay? Terrible joke, don't do it. Timeline, paste frames. Okay, good stuff. So everything's now inside of here. And the good thing is, because I had a background layer which is exactly the same size as the stage, it won't be a problem when I come out of here and I just go straight to align. It'll align perfectly to the stage, which is great. So once again, I'm going to press F5 to eke it out all the way to the end. Now all I need to do is export this out as a PNG sequence. Usually you'd think it would be somewhere around here, File, Export, Movie, or Export Animated GIF. These are the formats that work when it comes to the way we're going to have an animated image inside of Cinema 4D when it comes to animating textures. So what you would do is you press Ctrl L on your keyboard and brings up your library inside of Flash. We are looking at our comp called Annie. We're going to right click it, and there's something called Export PNG Sequence. Click on that, and let's choose a place for it to export out to. Footage, and I created a folder called PNG Sequence. Double click inside there, and we'll just call it Annie, and then it'll export each one out. That's fine. Its resolution, aspect ratio is all fine. So press export. And now what you should have is a full PNG sequence of the animation that we're going to bring into Cinema 4D. Right, so now I'm in Cinema 4D, and here's a sword that I had where I want to put that animated badge I created in Flash Animate into this bit here. I've UV mapped this whole text on there. I've written an article about it. I'll be sure to give you a link to the article. First things first, we want to select the front face and the back face of the sword. So let's do that. Okay, put the front and the back face sorted. And then we just want to go set selection. A little triangle will pop up over here. We just call that badge, just in case you ever click off it and you're like, oh crap, I need it to resolved. There we go. And now let's double click here. Let's call this badge Annie, and click off reflectance. Now we're going to go to our color, and we're going to choose a texture. So here we have our animation that we exported out. So click on the first frame and press open, and it's going to say needs a path. I'm just going to say no because I didn't create a text folder. So that's fine. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that onto the selected area. Now, first of all, it's not quite matching up. So I'm going to click on this little box here. That's called the texture mode. First thing to do is click on the texture and change it from UV mapping to flat. And then leave it on side both, because we're having front and back, so that's both sides. And now we click on this texture mode, and if we zoom out, you'll notice a square box has appeared over our sword. So essentially this is projecting that texture flat onto our object. So if I press T on the keyboard, I can scale this down, press space bar and position it in the right place. Probably best to turn the tiling off so you only have one version of it. Press T again and just keep scaling it down until it's in the right place. I can press T on the keyboard and scale it like that. Okay, it's still looking a little bit oblong. So just really roughly eyeball it, and then I can delete this just to see if it's matching. Control Z to bring it back, press T, scale it up a little bit more, delete it. Okay, I'm happy with that, that's fine. Now when you zoom in on the asset, you'll notice it's quite blurred, so we first want to up that resolution. So we double click on the texture and we go into editor, and you can choose the resolution you want. I'm just going to put it on no scaling, and that should immediately sharpen up the texture. And now we want to animate it. Now, if I remember right, this animation should be 12 frames. So I'm going to go into my color. I'm going to double click on the click on the texture, and I'm going to go to the tab marked animation, and I'm going to choose range. I'm just going to quickly press calculate. So I've just quickly calculated now, and it's going from 18 to 30, so that would be 12 frames. Now, if I wanted my animation to say start on frame 20, I can say 20 over here, and then what's 20 plus 12 is 32. And then I press calculate. And what happens now is when you get to 20, it'll start to animate, or should. There we are, calculate. So notice there's nothing on the first 20 frames, and then suddenly there's animation. At least you think there would be animation. So what have I done wrong? Let's have a look. Let's see, what other problems have I not resolved? If I go into editor and animate preview, there we go. So the problem I had is you should also check the box that says animate preview, so that the texture will animate. So now, strictly speaking, it should have nothing in the first 30 frames, then it should animate out all the way up to frame 32, and then it should stop. Now, this is all fine and dandy, but what if I totally wanted to get rid of that animation and put in more textures, because there's more than one badge animation that I've created? So we can use alpha channels to turn the opacity of this badge off in the meantime. So I could go into, so now we were on frame 20, for example. I can click on alpha, and I can choose color. Now currently when it's white, the opacity is 100%. So if I turn it to, say, full black, it's 0% opacity. Click on the color radio button, and let's make sure that that's white. Click on it again, and then I can make it black, and now it's turned off. So check it out. You can animate it on and off whenever you want to. That should have been the other way around, shouldn't it? Put that on black, and then put that one on white. Cool, now that texture's turned on, animated out, and you know, frame 32, I could have done the same thing. Click on that, scroll down to black, click on it again. Oh wait, I didn't jump. Let me try that again. Boom, on white, click on that, scroll down to black, boom. So at least now the texture will animate out and then snap back to total 0% opacity. Now I'm sure you've noticed I haven't quite lined up my badge 100%, but that's fine for demo purposes there. So now you know how to bring in an animated PNG sequence into Cinema 4D.